Catholic Church and the Pope and says, no Concepcion. Not Dave Concepcion, not home Concepcion. And you don't even have to play for the Cincinnati Reds. You put item in pants. No take out items.
No sexual.
No problem. So the Jewish people said, now wait, all these Christians are like celibate. All the Christians are asexual. Now if we go around with with Rachel, and with Rivka, and with Goldie, and with Hannah, and we're running around smiling with the teeth. Oh, I'm so happy. I think I'm fine. And the Christians are going to see, what are the Christians? They're going to kill us. They're going to take all our women because they don't want to play with the women because they're under their own Michigan religious ban.
Yes, they get
but they want to take the women away from us, and because when the Christians get upset, Jews die. That's the way it used to be in the Middle Ages in Europe. That's the way it used to be. Whenever the Christians got upset, the Jews were the scapegoat. So could you imagine? Here's a Christian who hasn't had sex in 90 years, and he sees a Jewish guy walking down the street with 5 women. What do you think is going to happen?
crazy. More sugar.
So Rabbi Gershom saw this predicament that the Jewish people were in, and he decided, he passed a decree. Well, I'll read this to you to make it official. That from now on, the house of Judah could only have one wife per husband, so that they would not be able, obviously, to have too many children, because they would only have one wife. With this style of living, the prophecy of Isaiah began to come to pass. This prophecy about fruitfulness does not apply to Ephraim, fruitlessness, barrenness, does not apply. The barren part applies to Ephraim. But the married wife who has almost no children had to come to pass. Remember, 700 years before Rabbi Gershom was born. And then we have to add another 600 years till Rabbi Gershom gave the cholam, or the decree. So we're talking about 600 plus, we're talking about 1,200 years after Isaiah said that even though the Jewish people are still married to Yahweh for Yahweh's greater purposes, there's going to come a day when they will not have children. And if they have no children, they won't be able to be born again, because it's hardly anybody to be born again. It's not just Hitler, the Crusades, and the pogroms that are the cause for the Jewish people only being few in number. It is Yahweh's decreed plan to make Ephraim greater in physical multiplicity, and the Jewish people greater in the kingdom, in the kingship through Yeshua. Make sense?
Yes.
So Ephraim has the birthright, but the Jewish people have the scepter. The Jewish people have the scepter to rule and to reign Israel through the King Messiah, the King of the Jews. But Ephraim had the birthright to be fruitful and multiply. You follow me?
Yeah.
Okay, so Rabbi Gershom was a key figure in the history of the Jewish people to bring Isaiah 54:1 to pass. Let me bore you a little bit and read you the ordinance, or the cholam, of Rabbi Gershom. How many are still with me?
Amen.
How many have checked out?
No, we straight.
You checked me out?
We straight.
Or you checked out? Or you checked me out? Well, that's okay. Most of what we know about Rabbeinu Gershom, including his Talmudic interpretations and legislative enactments, comes to us from the words of his disciples and their students, even from later generations. He had a profound impact on Franco-German Jewry for several centuries. 2 Tachananot ordinances that have been attributed to Rabbi Gershom in the area of marriage law: the ban, or the cherem, against bigamy, 2 wives; the ban against divorcing one's wife against her will, helped establish and concretize Ashkenazic conceptions of marriage. Unlike the medieval discussions of the Genaic ordinances that in almost all cases included reference to its underlying cause, the social historical circumstances surrounding Gershom's ban remains unclear. Some suggest Rabbi Gersham's cherem might be a legal formalization of the common practice, although it is fair to ask what triggered such a move in the 11th century. The influence of a strictly monogamous Christian society saw polygamy as a form of depraved behavior. Has anything changed?
Nope.
No?
Not at all.
Has anything changed? Hey, pastor, I have good news. I've got 2 wives. What? Boom. Call Human Health and Resources. Child Services at your door. Boom, 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 boom. Take them away, take them away, take them away. Right?
Yeah.
Rabbi Gershom was consistent with Jewish self-perception and preservation, as I mentioned earlier. Okay. That's a little background on it. So it wasn't until the 11th century, or the 1200s, I believe it was let me see here. Around 1100, okay, 1200, where Rabbi Gershom made a cholam, a harem. A harem is a decree or a law against plural marriage and also against granting a divorce against the wife's wish. When the Torah says doesn't matter what the wife wants, if you find a matter of uncleanness in the wife, Deuteronomy 24, you can give her a get. So these harems were used by Yahweh to basically take the wife, the married wife, the house of Judah, and render her almost childless. Today, the average Jewish family is composed of 1 wife and maybe 2 or 3 children. Especially in Jewish society, you don't have more than 2 or 3 children because Jewish people are very financially aware or financially conscious of what it actually takes to provide and to support children. And Jewish couples don't run around having 7, 9, 10 children like the Muslims do, because the first rule of a Jewish home is if we can't afford the children, we don't have them.
That's true.
Except the ultra-Orthodox.
But even the ultra-Orthodox, they may have 8, 9, 10 children, but they only have it through 1 wife because they're under the rabbinical cherem of Rabbi Gershom. Rabbi Gershom ben Yehuda. That's interesting. His name is a little bit of ironic. It's not just Gershom, but Rabbi Gershom ben Yehuda, son of the house of Judah. He basically put in the entire Eastern European Jewish people under the ban. In other words, Rabbi Gershom helped to fulfill, I have a lot to cover, the prophecy of Isaiah 54:1. What did the prophecy say? The children of the what? Married woman will be what? Few. Right? Are you still with me?
Oh, yes.
The children of the married woman will be few. Yahweh already knew this, which became news to later generations, but it was not news to him, who sees all things past, present, and future.
Amen.
Rabbi Gershom's ban now was only was set to expire, but the Ashkenazim Jews still do not marry more than 1 wife. Okay, so it was issued in 1260. But according to Rabbi Gershom, it was only supposed to apply for 500 years. So if we add 500 years to 1260, what do we come with? What do we come to? Around the 1700s, the 1800s. But the Jewish people still follow his ban, even though his ban has officially expired. You see how dangerous religion is? Once it sets in, it's almost impossible to get rid of. The Jewish people are still following the ban of Rabbi Gershom ben Yehuda, even though it expired in the 1700s.
Wow.
You follow me?
Except for some of this part.
Yes, well, we'll get to that in a second, huh? So the Ashkenazim, or basically the Eastern European Jews, still do not marry more than 1 wife at a time clearly reflected in the prophecy of Isaiah that the children of the married woman will be very few. So we see this prophecy. Now, don't miss this. This prophecy is not an allegory, it is literal. Don't take those 2 women as allegories. No, Yahweh is the patriarch. He has 2 sister wives. He said, be fruitful and multiply to both houses, but one house doesn't want to multiply. They don't want to accept Yeshua as king either. But in addition to that, they are following a rabbi of the Middle Ages and not the rabbi who said, be fruitful and multiply. You know how come there's so Jewish people that are saved? Because there's so few Jews. If there were 2 billion Jews, there'd be more Jews saved, wouldn't there? If there's 16 million Jews, there'll be fewer Jews saved. All right.